Good morning and welcome to Judging by the Cover, the gaming review show where I rate games that I have not played and score them on how well the store page sells it to me. Since I have no formal journalistic credentials, I feel like I am uniquely qualified to pass judgment on the hard work and dedication of other people. Today, we're looking at a special game on sale in honor of the holiday season. That's right. Since this is our pre-Christmas episode, we're looking at Butcher of the North by Admia Admia Games, Admia Studios, whatever they decide to suffix themselves with. Admia is the developer of this, and with a very brief look at what Admia is known for, it looks like a collection of pretty cheaply made indie horror games. Not that cheaply made is necessarily a bad thing, especially when the price reflects that. They seem to be just like supposed to have that spooky vibe, that very simple motif, where you go in more for something a little unusual. They've got Frozen Shelter, Welcome to Kowloon, Layer of Torment, Night Grove, Gift Collector with a Japanese subtitle. It's a New Year's horror game from first person in the Japanese style and genre of walking simulator. Okay. Reverse Tigachi demo. Brain Rot Animal Quizzes is one. That's an interesting title, although now, this is just a list of what Admia has on Steam, and all of them are discounted or free demos for one of them. Then there's I woke up in the house of a fat man. He's over 30 years old and loves beer and games. That's a mouthful of that. You know what? That title right there belongs on a Japanese light novel isekai title. Just saying. But today we're only looking at Butcher of the North. We're not going to be going through that whole catalog. As we can see here from the trailer, we do have quite a little bit, not a whole lot to go through. This isn't going to be a huge drawn out thing. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and move on down to our description. You are the one Santa always passed by. Not a single gift in your entire life, just an empty space under the tree. Years of disappointment have brought you to his doorstep. You won't ask. It's time to demand what's yours. But what you find behind the door has nothing to do with children's fairy tales. The workshop is working on something completely different, and his assistants are looking at you with unnatural interest. It becomes clear that some Christmas secrets are better left undisclosed. Moving down, we've got the gameplay. Stop waiting for gifts. It's time to take them. Take everything you can carry. Explore a creepy lair filled with deadly secrets. Face terrifying creatures that serve Santa and uncover the main secret of the New Year's workshop. It features chilling horror. You forget about the fairy tale Santa. You'll meet the Butcher from the North, a creature in a blood-stained red and white robe whose sack is meant for far more than terrifying gifts. The atmosphere of a holiday turned nightmare. Explore a terrifying lair where joyful garlands twinkle above pools of blood, and New Year's melodies, distorted beyond recognition, create a unique atmosphere of anxiety. So that is definitely promising a lot. Although with the price and the little bit of touch of reviews that we got here, I'm not quite sure if it lives up to all of that promise. But again, we're looking at what is full priced a $3 game. Admia does seem to mainly focus on making these, like I said, cheaply produced indie games, which again, it's not the worst thing in the world. Like, for that kind of a price, you're not going to be getting some huge masterwork production, but that doesn't mean that it isn't entertaining. The trailer does show us a little bit of fun stuff here, the trailer and the screenshots. We're going to go ahead and peek at the screenshots first, and then I'll go ahead and mention what I think about the trailer. We have a walk up to the workshop. It even says Santa Claus up in there with our snowman. It shows in the trailer. The snowman waves at you too. So there is some kind of like silly little whimsical goofiness at the lead in here. We have the big man in the red coat with an axe. So doing something bloody over here, clearly with the spooky motif and the red coloration. We've got what look like lawn gnomes, not what you would think of as like the Santa's workshop elves, but they look like a bunch of lawn gnomes, which honestly, because of the cheaper production value in the character models and stuff, they were probably easier to animate since, you just have like the little body and then the arms pretty much move on single hinges for the shoulders. We have an actually kind of a nice render of the workshop here with the painting on there, the clocks. In fact, are those clocks accurate? Okay, well, I don't know if the clocks are necessarily accurate off the top of my head, but at least the minute hand is consistent between all three of them. We do have this thing here. They do mention in one of the teasers here that you find Santa's workshop by locating the IP address. So that's how this starts here. It is kind of funny to see like a very old with a trackball. That's like an old computer that the main character's using to get there. Another shot of the workhouse with some carrots, presumably for the reindeer, some gifts on there waving at the snowman. We see that the snowman's arm is bent too there, so that might be where most of the animation budget went, from what I've seen. And another like they very much cast a lot of these in reds and those kinds of scary lights. Yeah, so this is what we're looking at here. The trailer, on the other hand, it does show a little bit of things in motion, and it starts off with the whimsical music, which is, that's a nice way to start the Christmas game before you get into that horror motif. We got the sleigh out front, the waving snowman, going into the workshop. We see that the character might be a young character. They're a little low to the doorknob and use both hands to open it. Very childlike in that regard. It does look like they're gathering up all the presents, throwing them in the fire. Maybe that's how you start the initial event. Kind of like if anybody is familiar with the old days of Slender the Arrival, where, you do a little bit and then the monster stuff triggers after you reach a certain checkpoint. Then it does the lights, gets into the spooky motif. Now, the description says that there's New Year melodies that get twisted. Uh, we don't really hear much of that twisted aspect of the New Year melodies in here, so I don't know if that's necessarily it's tempering my expectations a little bit. It gives the ominous background sound, but it does feel a little bit of a generic ominous sound. We do see the lawn gnomes there handing you gifts, basically, either waving you along or something. The lighting gets very dark after that point, which for a spooky game, the dark lighting does make sense, especially if they want to try and keep things kind of hidden. So I get it. It's like not everything needs to be well lit, and a lot of times when you're trying to communicate the spooky and the scary atmosphere, less lighting and obscuring your vision can be scarier than just showing you a badly rendered monster. But that's what we have here. It's definitely interesting. The graphics for the game, very simple. The graphics are not overly complicated. Again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. They are simple for the price you get and for the setting that they're conveying. It's it's that cheap indie horror vibe it's the cheap indie horror production kind of atmosphere that is leaning more into its premise than solely its visual representation, but the visuals are still there. Like you don't necessarily need the AAA stuff to get what you want out of the game. The sound, like I said, the whimsical music it sets the tone, and the spooky, like I said earlier, the spooky vibe is there. I'm just not entirely sold on the spooky sounding more than generic, at least as far as the trailer goes. Maybe in the full game, it's a lot better. The campfire sounds, the picking up the sounds, the light shutting off, all those sounds, they are tripping off there. So you at least get that little bit of immersive feedback from the game. The gameplay does look very much like your typical kind of walking simulator thing where maybe you have to avoid the big man himself, but other than that, you're walking around finding the requisite collectibles to continue the game, to continue to the next part, or to trigger the next event. We see absolutely nothing of a user interface or a menu. Although, to be fair, for this kind of a game and for how short I would expect it to be, you probably don't even really have much of a menu to go through in the first place. And then finally, the pricing. What we have here is a game that is $3 at full price. So you know going in that it's not going to be that big of a deal, or that it's not going to be that huge of a game. On sale currently for 20% off until December 29th. So a little bit after Christmas, we have opportunity for this sale if you want to take advantage of that slightly cheaper price. Although 20% off of $3 is very negligible. Like I wouldn't even bat an eye at spending the full price on this if I were trying to, get that bit of collection of horror indie games all over the place. So even at full price, it's not the deal breaker there. With that, we don't have any other bundles or anything that this is available in. It maybe it would be nice to have like a bundle collection for the developer as a whole, for Admia to have like, because like I said, I listed at the beginning of this little review, they have quite a few of these indie horror games under their belt. Could be cool to just bundle them all together as like a holiday package. Looking at their prices, you could probably bundle them all for $5 or $8, and it would still be discounted from all of their base prices, similar to what their sales are going for up front here. That would just be kind of like a neat little thing, considering how many there are and how low the price is on all of them. The 240, the 239 or $3 price tag, not at all a deal breaker here. Like I said, it's cheap. You know what you're getting, and I have reviewed other cheap, like very cheaply made, borderline like trash looking games on here before. Anyone who remembers the Insane bundle on the Nintendo Switch for $2. But this one actually does, as a single game, it looks better than most of that Insane bundle that I reviewed for the Switch. I will say that. So with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and give this one a score of 5 out of 10. Now, mind you, this isn't like some kind of a thing where it's like, oh, anything like 8 or 9 is your optimal game and anything 5 is horrible. No, 5 is a very middle of the road kind of situation where I don't see myself buying it, but based on the store page, the trailer, and the price, I feel like if this is your kind of if this is your kind of scene, absolutely go for it. This isn't something that even at the 20% off, I wouldn't see myself buying. Maybe if this thing went on sale for less than $1, that's where I'd probably be more inclined to jump on it myself, just for the sake of experiencing it. Or if it was bundled in with something else that was like I really wanted another game, or if I was looking for a specific vibe to do on a stream or something like that. That said, if indie horror games, like no matter how amazing or cheaply produced your taste of indie horror games, this could be a game that is up your alley, at least for that less than $3 price tag. If it is bad, you didn't really waste a lot of money on it. If it does have generally positive feedback on Steam, so there is an audience for this kind of thing. If that is your speed, by all means. I think it's kind of interesting to see the Santa lore or the Santa setting turned into a bit of a horror aspect. It's something that we don't see a whole lot of, and maybe, quite frankly, it's not always done well when it is done. But even if it's not something that is exploring the ideas in a new or profound way, just something for a little bit of twisted atmosphere. If you want a little bit of that, like sick, like pop, it feels like a popcorn game. Like you just kind of like it's that kind of situation. I know I'm kind of stumbling on my words and muttering here. I just feel like there's not a whole lot to say about it. But like I said, 5 out of 10. If you like the cheap indie horror games, it'd be up your alley. Otherwise, it might be one to skip over, unless you're like, you know what? I feel like I could drop $3 on this. I do like the little gnomes, angry faces and stuff. I am a little curious. I do like that the trailer and the screenshots in the description, like they kind of tell you a little bit of what to expect, but they don't tell you anything about what the secrets are. They're not exposing too much of the game up front. So it does leave you a little hungry for wanting to know what the mystery is. I will give it that. That is a positive on its mark. But oh, there I go, knock my microphone over. But if anybody else out there has tried this, has played this, by all means, let us know what you think. Now, remember, the views expressed on here are purely opinions. We all have different tastes when it comes to our entertainment media, and I will gladly welcome differing opinions. Whether you think it's garbage, whether you think it's amazing, epic, peak, or even if it's just a fun way to spend an afternoon or a dark and stormy winter night. Maybe playing it with the right atmosphere and the right weather outside with the window open would be the way to go. But for those of you, like I said, who have purchased or otherwise played the game, what are your thoughts? If you played other games from the studio, from Admia, by all means, let us know what you think. Because even though the stuff that Admia has made looks cheap and probably is, like they seem to know that they at least have an idea of what they're making and where to price it at based on, the sale prices I'm seeing of 53 cents, 239, 239, 179. They're not asking for like a huge thing. They definitely have an idea of what they want to put out, even if it's just small little fun things that somebody is making in their spare time, which small indie developers like that, even if they make like little bullshit games like that, even if that's what it is, if that's what they're making, if they're having fun with it, I do commend them making something that they enjoy.